Yeah, we're back again. I don't know what's going on, man. I feel like this mic super hot or super not. I don't know what's going on, man. Let me tell you something. You know where you're at. I'm not gonna say it. I'm keep talking about not saying it, but man, I'm still sick, bro. I don't know what's going on. So my voice is a little off today, a little low T, if you know what I mean. Um, we're gonna get in some things here that I feel that I'm trying. See, I left my dang notes, so I gotta find them. Yeah, it's a mess. So episode 18, we talked about bottles, I mean the liquor store mistakes. So what happened was, I was thinking about that for a while, and I was like, man, there's a lot of mistakes that people see when they go to the liquor store and stuff like that. So we're gonna do a part two. Yeah, this is the first time we've done a part two. There could be a part three or four. Who knows? Um, Other liquor store mistakes, and you know, basically this segment. I'm not gonna put it on the title. Bullshit or legit. Basically, what it means. Um, so we're gonna be going over like quite a few wordages and stuff like that, denotations of different whiskeys and stuff like that. So, as always, you know what we do. We talk a little bit beforehand. So, man, how do I say this? Um, some creepy stuff happened this week, man. It's been super busy. Obviously, over 100 degrees every day. But it's like I come home from work one day, tried a day job, and I see this lady walking down the street. She wasn't singing "Do Wah Diddy" or nothing, but I'm like, that's weird. It's freaking hot. What are you doing walking down the street? And then I get closer to my house, and there's a RV parked like not in my driveway, obviously, but right outside, like in the easement from the road to the to my property. And there's a truck and a RV sitting there. I'm like, that's weird. So I check my mail, like you do when you come home from work. Check my mail, and I'm like, this is weird. And so I'm kind of eyeballing it just as, because I'm always looking for sketch. Um, and I thought, man, is there somebody in there? I don't know if there's anybody in there. Whatever. Moving on. Went back to the house. Didn't really think anything about it. My wife goes, yeah, there's a train. Yeah, I saw it. Okay, cool. Whatever. So we went to go check chickens and make sure, everybody was good from the heat and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, my son comes running outside. Dad, there's somebody at the door. I'm like, oh, crap. It's probably somebody from there. So I'm like, okay. I go to the door, and at this point, I'm on DEFCON 5. We finna roll some heads. You know what I mean? Come at me, bro. You know what I mean? Um, so I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. I opened the door and I said, can I help you? You know, and here's the thing. I'm a nice person. I'll do anything in the world for you. Do not come to my house unannounced, unless you're family, obviously. And even then, maybe shoot me a text or something first. Um, and the guy looked ragged, man. He looked ragged. And I was like, okay, what's going on? He goes, man, I'm in that RV. I busted a tire. I just need some help. And he's like, man, I don't have no water or nothing. Can I get a glass of water? And maybe in the Christian warrior I am, I'm like, all right, bud, I'll get you some water. Hold on. Stay outside. You ain't coming inside. Sorry. Get him some water. And I said, all right, let's go take a look at it. I hadn't even, got out of my uniform clothes or anything like that. I was like, let's go look at it. So I go by my work truck. I get out, like a pair of pliers and a hammer or something, like, I don't know what the issue is, but, we're going to fix it with a hammer for sure. We'll beat the hell out of it till it works. And so I start walking, and I'm like, go on. Like, you know, not being rude to the guy. I mean, I guess I was rude to the guy, but I don't know you, man. Like, what if he's got a gun? And unfortunately, that, as, I'm not trying to talk about this, but like, there's some crazy stuff people are doing nowadays. They're crazy. And I don't want to be part of that, right? So it ain't happening with me. I'll knock you in the head with this hammer right now. I'm acting all hard. You know that's probably not going to happen. I'd probably start crying or something. That actually happened. Anyway, so we get over to the trailer, and it's still hooked up to the truck. And he's like, I can't get the trailer unhooked. The little latch for the ball is like messed up. It's not working. So what did I do? Got my dang hammer and started beating on it, and just beating on it. I'm like, I'm sorry, but this is how we're gonna have to get it off. Well, I mean, I beat on it till I started bending stuff, and I was like, oh crap, it's not coming off. So we ended up having to, and of course it's freaking 106 outside, so like it's 5:30, 5:45 in the afternoon, so it's like blazing hot. The dude's wearing like slides. He's not prepared. He doesn't have any tools, any of this. And I look at that trailer and I'm like, this is a piece of junk. Like insulation falling out of the bottom of it, two busted tires. Looks like it was sitting on somebody's lot for a while. And I'm like, bro, he's like, well, we're from another town and blah, blah, blah. We came to get that trailer. And I'm like, that's pretty sketchy. What are you doing on this road? Because this road isn't a main road. Oh, well, we were over here and we were coming this back way. And I said, normally, when you have a trailer with sketchy tires, you don't go back roads. You know what I mean? That's first rule of sketchy tireness. You stay on the main roads. That way somebody can help you if need be. And I said, hey, bud, you don't have a cell phone or something? Oh, no, my girl has it. And I said, oh, your girl was that chick walking up the road? He's like, yeah, man, she got mad at me for blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I'm going to walk to town. I said, you understand it's like 10 miles to town. Like, she's going to die of heat exhaustion before she gets there. Guaranteed. Like, it's too hot for that. I mean, but the little bit I saw her, she was probably, maybe 200 yards away from him. Like, right on the other side of my house. Well, maybe to the neighbors. Anyway, doesn't matter. And she was beet red and sweating profusely. And I'm like, she's not going to make it to the end of the damn road, you know? So, long story short, I end up having to take the entire receiver hitch out, which was a pain in the butt because when the trailer is actually on it, it doesn't want to come out easy because it's got tongue weight. So we get it out, and the guy's like, man, I really appreciated it. Blah, 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 offered me some money. And I'm like, I don't want no damn money. Just get off my property. It's not my property, but, get out from my house. I said, so what are you going to do? He's like, well, I got to go get these tires fixed. And I said, well, by now it's like 6:30 at night. And I'm like, hey, good luck. Maybe Walmart, maybe. And he's like, all right, cool. And then, like, he tried to give me a hug. And I was like, all right, man, trying to be young Christian warrior. You know what I mean? I'm giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. So I no longer, caveat to that, I'm doing the thing, and then all of a sudden I look in my, to my right. I'm being cautious with the guy, but I'm also trying to help. Making sure he stays back and stuff like that, because I don't know the dude. He could be a convicted felon that stole that trailer, and he's running from the law. I don't know. My father-in-law, who they live behind me, evidently my wife had called him and was like, hey, you need to get over here and do reconnaissance or backup or whatever. So I felt bad because, like, I don't know this guy, but at the same time, I trust that most people are good, right? But at the same time, I don't trust anybody. So, whatever. He ends up leaving. My father-in-law's like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, I don't even know. I said, are they coming back to get the train? I don't know, maybe, whatever. So the day goes by. Well, the next thing you know, the county mountie comes out, driving by, and then all of a sudden, like 2 minutes later, another county mountie comes out and stops. And I'm like, oh, crap, I need to go talk to that guy. So I hadn't even gone inside yet. So I'm still beet red, hot. So I run over there, run for me, whatever you want to call it. I run over there and I'm like, "Hey, bud, here's the deal. This is what happened. Is this yours?" I'm like, "Hell no, that ain't mine. Why the hell would it be right there? It'd be in my yard anyway." Um, I said they went to town. I guess it was a white whatever blah blah blah. Of course, I didn't get like a license plate. Like that would be too easy, right? I didn't get a license plate or nothing. And so like the more and more I'm thinking about it, the less and less sketchy I am. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know this dude. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm whatever. And I told the police guy, I was like, if he comes back, I'm gonna call you guys. Not for anything, not to throw him in jail or something like that, but if he needs help because I don't feel safe anymore, especially if he comes back tonight in the dark. I do not feel safe going out there helping this guy. One time I'll do it, and if the dude doesn't kill me, great. But I'm not gonna tempt fate, right? Not that anything was gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to be a good steward, but at the same time, I'm in fight stance the whole time. So it's kind of hard to do that. So, long story short, creepy dude. I mean, he was pretty creepy, right? He was yeah. They were rough. They were real rough. And then, so they come back. I think later the night, and nothing. Like I don't know what they did. They didn't do anything because then they left like 2 minutes later. And then my wife calls and said, "Hey, they're back the next morning or the next afternoon." Blah blah blah, nothing. And then that night, about I don't know 5 o'clock, they're back, and all of a sudden the county mountie comes out there and he's like helping them, which is super cool. I'm glad that they do that. We live in a small town. They're willing to help these people. And then it gets all close to dark, and they're still out there jacking with it. And then all of a sudden, the guy just takes off without the trailer again. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a week-long thing. So he goes, then the next morning, he comes back. It's like 11, I guess. My wife calls me and is like, hey, the guy's back. They hooked up the trailer and left. And I was like, praise God. Yeah, get him out of here. Again, benefit of the doubt. Don't mean any ill will towards the guy. I pray that he finds his place and where he needs to be. But at the same time, yeah, it's really strange. So I do all that rant just to tell you guys, watch out, because I've heard a lot of people saying knocking on their door saying they need help, and good Samaritans like we all want to be are going to help these people, and then they get robbed or they get shot or something like that. So just be careful of that. All right. I told you, man. I'm freaking. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. All right, we're getting back into liquor store, liquor store mistakes. Okay. Now this is called bullshit, or what did I say? I don't even remember. Um, oh man, is it clarity or is it marketing fluff that they're using? Now we talked on episode 18 about how the age statement doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means something, but like it doesn't make it better. Don't listen to what the guy behind the counter's telling you. Use your own discernment. Don't listen to what I'm telling you. Use your own discernment. All of that stuff. So there are some key words, good and bad, that are on these whiskey bottles, and I have a few examples around here. I know this is not going to be a video episode, but I have a few examples around here that we can talk about. And then I have a list of other trigger words, I would call them, that are either fluff or it presents as clarity. And I feel like that's a pretty big deal in the realm of spirits, because everybody wants to try and get the best bang for their buck, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're at in this world. So you don't want, you don't want to pick up a bottle that you think is really great whiskey because of what it said on the label, right? This whiskey says it's blah 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 and blah blah blah, and then you open the bottle and you're like, hmm, you know, like not exactly what you were wanting. So one of the key words that I see a lot, and it's a trigger word, I would say, is called premium. Right? They call it premium whiskey, ultra deluxe, or you know what I mean? Premium. This is premium quality whiskey. That means nothing. That has no connotation at all with the actual whiskey that's in it. Right? Another one that because that this is not a connotation in whiskey, it might be in wines and other things. Vintage, right? Vintage or reserve, right? So a vintage on a wine means it's the from a particular year, from a particular vineyard, sometimes even a particular row in that vineyard, right? It's a vintage of grape per year or something like that. It has a small amount of connotation, like maybe with a bottled in bond. We'll talk about that. I mean, we already have, but like, you know, there might be some there, but vintage doesn't mean anything. Reserve doesn't mean anything. All these words don't mean anything. I'm going to do a couple more and then we'll do ones that do mean something. You know what I mean? Extra aged. It was extra aged. Well, I mean, what do you mean it was extra aged? Right? Like, was it, okay, so is it 2 year old whiskey that they aged for 2 more years? It doesn't say. It just says extra aged. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Like, you know, and then this one is a different one that I've only seen a couple times. Boutique. Now, a boutique is like a little store that you go to, right? It's like a tchotchke shop that you go to, and they have like, you know, freaking little things here and there, and your wife might like to go there because they got, um, Christmas ornaments and some Spanx, or I don't know what the hell they have in this boutique shop, but that's not whiskey. Whiskey's not boutique. Craft, maybe, but not boutique. Now, craft doesn't really mean anything either because there's some craft distilleries out there that are producing, you know, 80,000 pallets a year. That's not craft, or is it? They're not big ballers, but yet they have a marketing team and all that other stuff. Sorry, I got to get me a little drink real fast. Man, I don't know what's going on, but we're going to get it figured out. I got an appointment with the doctor here next week. So one of the things that is a marker that you can look for is bourbon. We've talked about bourbon and what bourbon is. There's some markers in there that it has to be a certain thing, right? The main thing is it has to be made in America, the United States of America, not North America. So Canadian whiskey has its own connotation. Bourbon has its. And then you get into the whole straight bourbon, right? Straight bourbon means it has to be at least 2 years old. And if you don't have the age stated on it, it has to be a minimum of 4 years. Okay? That's a thing. Here's another one that's a not. Ready? Handcrafted. This is a big one. Handcrafted. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whiskey's made by people that have hands, hopefully. No disrespect to people that don't have hands, right? Because that sucks. You got like the claw or whatever, and it's kind of hard to work the levers and clean out the mash tun and stuff without hands. Not to say you couldn't do it, right? I'm sure you could. There's people that do amazing things, and I've seen videos of, guys that don't have any arms and they're driving cars and stuff like that. So, like, I'm not trying to be derogatory or anything by what I'm saying. Is like, obviously, whiskey is handmade. It's not robot made yet. Just wait. Anyway, another one that is a good marker and is something that we want to look for is single malt, right? Single meaning one distillery, right? And that goes mainly for Scotches and Irish, but it can also go for American whiskey as well. Single malt. So a single malt is barley, and it's from one distillery. It does not mean it's one particular kind of malt. It can be 500 different kinds of malt. It doesn't matter as long as it's one distillery, barley. Got it? And that's a connotation in the TTB guidelines. Okay. Another one that it has roots, but at the same time it doesn't. Okay. Um, it's double wood, double oaked, right? There's a bunch of whiskeys out there, especially bourbons, that are double oaked. For one, how long are they in the secondary oak? And if it's a bourbon, it has to be a brand new barrel. To me, when we talked about where have all the barrels gone, remember we were talking about people using this double oaked mentality, and they're like, I'm not going to say wasting the barrels because they're not, but they are. Putting a 4-year old bourbon that's been maturing in a new cask, putting it in another brand new cask that's never had liquor in it for like 6 more months. I'm like, bro, you're basically not ruining, because then the Scotch guy will get that and they'll, make some good liquor out of it. But like, you're just burning through barrels left and right just to say you have a double oak or a double wood, thing. Now that can also mean, like double wood. Don't laugh. It's not funny. I know you're childish. Stop. Um, Double wood in like Scotch and Irish can sometimes mean like it was in an old bourbon barrel since they used oak. It can be in an old bourbon barrel, and then it can be in like a wine barrel. That could be double oaked as well. So like like not finished, but like, because for Scotch they just have to have a connotation. It has to be in wood. Doesn't say new oak. Doesn't say, so they're finishing. They don't have to put finished whiskey on there. It's just, it is what it is. A lot of times, if it's in like a Pedro Jimenez cask or a Tawny Port cask, then they will denote it on the bottle somewhere and say, hey, this was finished in Tawny Port. Most of them do, not all of them. But yeah, that's kind of a misnomer. Um, here's one that's a guideline, and it's an age statement. It was aged 10 years. Okay, that has to be accurate. How they check that, I don't know. I really don't. I really don't know how they check that. But what that means is 10 years. At 10 years. So let's take whatever whiskey. It doesn't matter. The like so when they do a release of a bottling of something, say what is it? Last time we were talking about Yamasaki 12, right? Yamasaki 12-year-old. When they do a blend to release Yamasaki 12, they don't just have a couple of barrels of Yamasaki that's 12 years old and they dump them. No, they probably have, depending upon the distillery, obviously, they probably have anywhere between 40 and 50, 40 and 50 barrels, depending, of course, that are at least 12 years old. So the minimum amount of whiskey has to be aged that much if you're going to have that age statement on it, right? You can have a 20-year-old whiskey in there, a 30-year-old whiskey in there. Now, on the older ones, they don't normally put the entire barrel of it. They'll do it as an accent or something, and that's where blending comes in, like, big time. But, so it has to be the minimum age of any of the whiskey that goes in there. You throw a 5-year-old whiskey in there, it's 5 years old. You throw new make in there, it's new make. You know what I mean? So you got to be very careful with what you're putting in there, according to TTB guidelines. Here's another one that is probably one of the, probably if not the biggest, one of the biggest ones that's out there. Small batch. Small batch denotes nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right? It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like the craft thing, like we're talking about. Small batch, Jefferson's, their Jefferson's Ocean or whatever. It doesn't matter. They aged it at sea or whatever. On all their bottles, it says very small batch. Well, the Jefferson's, the distillery, is a huge distillery. They do, 600,000 pallets of whiskey a year. What is a small batch to them? Or a very small batch? What do they take 1,000 pallets of, or 1,000 barrels and mix them together instead of their normal 10,000 barrels? Like that's the thing. That's the denotation of it. Like that's not very small batch. Very small batch would be right over a single barrel, right? You have one barrel, or you mix two barrels together. That is very small batch. When you have a bottle count of like 400 or 600, that's a small batch. Um, and so like it's a misnomer that people need to understand. Like all of this is just fluff. It's all fluff. The things that really matter on there, and they have to be on there. Like when they say Kentucky, okay, it does need to denote. It does not have to. It does not have to on the front label. It does not have to say Kentucky or Texas or whatever. On the back, there's a bottle right in front of me, not like a frontal lobotomy. This is a bottle. I did a podcast in my shed, and I had this bottle. It's the Crowded Barrels Eleanor, and it's a sourced MGP bourbon that they left in Texas for a little bit longer, and it got a little more age on it. But it says distilled in Indiana. Okay, that's clarity. That's transparency, like we love, right? And then it says bottled by Crowded Barrel Whiskey Company, Austin, Texas. That is transparency, the way it's supposed to be, right? So, but on the front, it says Eleanor Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It doesn't have to say Indiana Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It doesn't have to say Texas Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It just has to have Straight Bourbon Whiskey. But the denotation of distilled by and bottled by has to be somewhere on there. So if you'll look at a lot of these bottlings, they'll say bottled by or crafted by, or some of these other trigger words for that. The ones that are trying to be as transparent as possible is like the Eleanor, where they said, "Hey, we took it like this and we did this to it." And then there's the other ones that say mashed, fermented, distilled, aged, bottled. They're going through the whole gamut in X, in their town, at their distilling company. And that's when you know that the transparency is there and that is 100% their product. Not to go off on that tangent again. I'm just saying that's those things that are on the bottle. If they're false, you can get sued for it. And now, if you skirt around the laws and like just don't put some stuff, well, that's between you and the police. You know what I mean? So here's another one that is kind of a misnomer. Misnomer. I don't. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's mainly with. I mean, American single malts do it too, but it's mainly with Scotches and Irish. It's called triple malt or double malt, and it's not saying like a blended malt, right? Like, so with a blended malt, it'd be three different malts from three different distilleries blended together. This would be like a triple malt from one distillery from different seasons, maybe. I don't know. I don't know, three different not mash bills, but three different grain profiles or whatever that they put together. It's very confusing, and that's the thing. Like, just, I live by the guidelines of keep it simple, stupid. I try to, but at the same time, I'm like, bro, quit putting all this stupid crap on your label. Just say, hey, this is scotch. Hey, this is bourbon. Hey, this is whatever. You know? So, here's one that is a have to have if you're going to put it on there, right? If you have a whiskey that says rye, right? It needs to denote that it is a rye whiskey, right? Because rye has certain guidelines. Same with malt, same with corn. If you got a corn whiskey, it needs to denote that it is a corn whiskey. It has to say that. Pot still, right? If you distilled it in a pot, it's pot stilled, right? As opposed to column stilled or rectified or, hybrid or whatever. If it is from a certain country, it doesn't have to say it. It does somewhere on the label, like I was saying, but it does, like an Irish whiskey, Jameson, whatever, it will say Irish whiskey. It can only be made in that country. So a Welsh whiskey can only be made in Wales. A German whiskey, you get what I'm saying. I'm not going to name off all the freaking countries. I don't know half of them, so it wouldn't do me any good. So another one that is a denoting for that is proof, right? The proof on it has to be within 2 proof points or 1 proof point, right? So if it's a 40% bourbon, it better be 39 or 41% or in between, 39.8 or whatever, right? It better be that. I don't know if on the 40% it has to be over 40. You know what I mean? Like, because under 40% isn't considered a bourbon or even a whiskey. Unless you go to other countries. Some of those other countries, they sell the whiskey at 35% alcohol, which is very strange to me. And what they'll do on some of them, like let's say, what was it? Jim Beam, right? The Jim Beam white label basic whiskey is 45% here, 90 proof. In Scotland, Ireland, something like that, they dump it down to 43%. Why? I don't know. I don't know why they do that. It's very strange. Why would you change the proof of it? But if it denotes cask strength, that is not a connotation of a certain proof. Now, there is certain things like in guidelines with bourbon that it has to be, it cannot go into the barrel at any more than 125 proof or 62.5% alcohol. It can't. Okay, any more than that in your light whiskey or you're making hazmat, right? And there's distilling stuff and stuff like that. That doesn't matter. But so like the cask strength wild turkey, which is their rare breed, is like 116 proof. Well, that's not 125. It just has to be from the barrel, basically. No water added, supposedly. So like there's a bunch of them, Benchmark, 1792, that say full proof, right? Well, do you think that it came out of that barrel at 120? It went in at 125 and came out at 125 and sat there for 6 years and didn't change proof? Because we know with heat, proof rises. We cool, the water, like in Scotland, the water evaporates. No, in Scotland, sorry. In Scotland, the alcohol evaporates. In America, the water evaporates. So the proof goes up no matter what. Right? So So I don't know what they're doing there. If they are watering a little bit, it's not none of my concern, and I don't. You do you, boo boo. Okay. Here's a hoy. This one. And I don't want to talk crap about any distillery that's out there making money and doing their thing. But as I've said ad nauseum, transparency is a thing, and you need to be aware of it, and you need to do it right. There is and I actually like this whiskey, so like I'm not shaming it. It's just not very transparent. They are transparent because it says on the back in fine print, of course. But it's Basil Hayden Dark Rye. Okay. Here's the deal. Dark does not connotate anything. Oh, did they toast the rye, or did they make the rye chocolate rye or something? That's just basically you roast it until it's black, and that's what they call chocolate. Um, did they do that? I don't know, and it doesn't matter because that's not a connotation that the TTB follows, right? So the dark rye isn't a thing. But what is funny, you read the back of the label. What is that? Oh, it's their rye whiskey, Basil Hayden's, mixed with Canadian rye whiskey, finished, no, not finished, mixed with a percentage of port. Yeah, wine. That's called rectification, right? But yet they're selling it as a straight rye whiskey. How do they get away with that? I don't know. I don't know. It's none of my business, again. So, like, that one to me hurts because it's a good whiskey. Don't get me wrong, it's a good whiskey. Canadian rye whiskeys are some of the best ryes out there. They know how to do rye right. The Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye won Whiskey of the Year a couple years back. Like, that's a big deal for Crown Royal to win Whiskey of the Year. Oh my God. That's a big deal. So I need to get more into Canadian whiskey. Because all the ones I've had are the same ones that you've probably had. You know what I mean? The Rich and Rare, the Crown Royal, the Special Reserve Crown Royal, the, Potter's Crown, what is that other one? I think I was stuck on it the last time as well. It's dang it. It doesn't matter. They're good. They're just not great. But there's some distilleries over in Canada that are making some really cool stuff. The issue is they won't ship it to us. They keep it for themselves because they're greedy. They're too nice and they're greedy. I'm joking. Love Canada. They got lots of squatches up there, lots of Sasquatch. Supposedly. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to go up there and hunt me one. Okay, here's another one that sometimes it needs to denote if it has been. And that's chill filtered or non-chill filtered. Either way you put it. Why would you chill filter a whiskey? Why would you chill it at all? That doesn't make any sense. Well, chilling it drops some of the long-chain fatty acids out of suspension. Oh, God, I told you we were going to get all dorky. It takes all that out of suspension, and then they filter it. We're talking like to the point of freezing. Not just, we cooled it down a little bit. No, they get it cold, and then they siphon off the top what they want. And what it does is it cleans up the flavor. Why would you chill filter? Because maybe you have a subpar product. That's not always true, but a lot of times if you're filtering out something that's in there, that's not, that's not really great. So non-chill filtered would obviously be the opposite of that. We do not chill filter anything we do. And there's a lot of them, especially like the more cast strength, and they'll say unfiltered, uncut, right? The only filter they do is they put like a strainer so that you don't get bits of wood and charcoal that's in the barrel, in the bottle. obviously. You don't want floaty things in your whiskey. That's weird. Um, I've had some, um, and it's not bad because it's like a piece of wood or charcoal from the burning of the staves. So it's not a huge deal, but like at the same time, you're like, what is that a bug? It's weird. Um, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just please. Yeah, yeah. All right. Here's another one that is a misnomer. It's called Distiller's Select. Right. The head distiller picked these barrels. Yeah, these are the ones I selected. There's 800,000 barrels in this warehouse, and I picked these just for you. That doesn't mean nothing. It does more in craft. When I went to Real Ale, which is Real Spirits, and I was with a group, and they did a barrel pick, and they had a distiller select, but they have 60 barrels on hand. That's it. So it was almost like a single barrel pick, but it was like, these are the barrels that are really cool, and they blended them together. So it was cool, right? It was a cool thing, and it actually was a select from the distiller himself. But when you have 800,000 barrels to choose from, and you're like, just make a distiller select or whatever, make it a little spicier or something, you tell the blender that. Okay, we'll add some newer whiskey in it, and it'll make it spicier, and that's it. It doesn't really mean a whole lot, which sucks. And then here's another one, and this doesn't have it a whole lot in America, but I've heard of it. Anyway, caramel color, E150A. I don't know if we've talked about this. I think we have. And that's the thing, like, I've been going back, as you well know, I've been going back on these podcasts, and I've been listening to them. For one, to hone my skills a little more, and to be like, oh, God, I'm an idiot. Why did I say that? You know what I mean? But at the same time, to be like, what did I talk about? Because, like, as I'm talking to you right now, I'm not, I'm recording it on the thing, but I'm not, like, going off a script or anything like that. I have guidelines that I go by. I wrote some notes, I like to write notes because I am ADHD to the max. And so, like, if I don't, I'm like squirrel, and next thing you know, we're talking about freaking the creepy dude in his trailer, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff we'd be talking about if I didn't have some sort of guideline. So, E150A is a color additive. Think about Coca-Cola, Pepsi. All of those have E150A in them. It's supposedly non-toxic, whatever. So if you had a regular Coke without the caramel coloring in it, it'd be clear. Carbonated, clear, Sprite stuff. Very strange. So they do the same thing with whiskey. But why? Why would they do that? I don't know why I'm asking you questions, right? Because you're like, I don't know, you tell me. You're the one that does the thing. But anyway, they do that because, especially in Ireland, Scotland, some other countries, because the color in the bottle is a perception of age, right? It's a perception of age. The darker means the longer it's sat in the barrel. And we know that is not true, right? Because I can show you some Balcones whiskey that is 36 months old, that is almost black, right? And then I can show you a 28-year-old single malt Scotch that is almost new make colored. Yeah. So that's not a perception of age or flavor. Well, it is a little bit of perception of flavor because the coloring, if it's natural coloring from the barrel, like that, Balcones is going to have a very dark color to it. And so therefore it's going to have a very intense flavor as well. And that's why the Scotch people and the Irish, and I'm not just picking on Scotch, calm down. They use used oak. And so the bourbon or whatever that was in there before has used up a lot of those tannins and stuff like that beforehand. So when they put their whiskey in it and let it sit for 10, 15, whatever years, it doesn't get the coloring that you would think. Like I'm looking, I have a Springbank 18, and we've talked about Springbank multiple times. It's an 18-year-old whiskey, right? Been sitting in that barrel for 18 years. And it is straw colored, maybe a little, not even golden, light gold, light yellow, not yellow, light gold. 18 years, you know what I mean? So what they do, some distillers, they'll add some E150 in there to make the color darker. One of the ones that's been called out for it, and they make good whiskey, so I'm not, whatever, is Dalmore. If you've ever seen a Dalmore 12 or whatever, it has like a stag or something on the front of the bottle. It's good whiskey. It's good whiskey, but they put the E150 in it to make it look like it's older. And it's like a 12-year-old whiskey or something like that. So like it's got some age to it, you know? And so we've always, in the whiskey community, we were always like, I want to see it non-colored. Well, the guys over at the Whiskey Vault or Tribe, I don't remember which one. It's the same people. It's just one is, they actually had a unfiltered Dalmore that was like a single barrel, which obviously is going to be a little bit of different profile. But it was lightest yellow you have ever seen. Like barely tinged for a 12 or 18-year-old Dalmore. You know what I mean? So it was a big difference. It was a big difference. So that to me, it's just not clarity. Again, not clarity. So, what else do I have on here? What are we at on time? Oh yeah, we're good. We're good. So another one that I wanted to talk to you about, and we've probably talked about this again. Mm-hmm. Sorry. We've talked about this, I'm sure, when we were talking about what whiskey was and, prohibitional things and stuff like that. Bottled and bond. Those are some of the strictest guidelines that you have to follow in order to be considered bottled and bond, because it's government regulated, which back in the day was a big deal, right? Back in Prohibition, it was a big deal because people were making bathtub whiskey and stuff like that. Well, I've already said that. But here's the deal. All distilleries are governmentally regulated now. All of them. Right? You pay your taxes. You do your thing. All of them are. So the Bottled and Bond Act was great, and it was great for whiskey makers all around. But it doesn't really hold a whole lot of precedence now because everything is regulated by the government, right? So it's not that big of a deal. But the other guidelines, minimum 4 years old, one distilling season, one distiller, 100 proof entry into the bottle, stuff like that. All of those things still matter. And so I think I told you all about this the other couple weeks ago. I went to Andalusia, and picked up a bottle of their bottled and bond rum. Now, I'm not a big rum guy. I like rum. Rum and Coke, that's pretty good, huh? But I'm not big on it. But the first bottled and bond rum in Texas. Think about that. That's a big deal. I got to support my boys over there. Ty and Tommy and Moose. They're doing some amazing stuff. They really are. So we're getting close to the end. And I'm going to do a little ramble ranting. You know me. I do my thing. So I did a podcast. It will be out after this one. Anyway, with some guys, super cool guys, right? And they are doing some cool things. And I'm not going to get into too much detail, but this goes back to episode 4 when I talked to you. And we kind of talked about the blessings that I had. I was actually listening to that episode earlier. And, you know, when you're doing this podcast and you're just letting it go to the ether and hope that people listen to it and they find something out of it. And I hope you found something out of what we talked about today. And this will be part 2 of, you know, like I said, it could be many more. And I'm going to put part 2 on it. So make sure you look out for part 1. It was podcast 18. Make sure you look out for this one, and they're kind of go together. So we didn't get into a whole lot of the other stuff that one went into. So anyway, I say all that to say these guys that I had on the podcast, they're starting some stuff and they're doing some things, and they told me either on camera or off, and it doesn't matter, because I feel like it needs to be talked about if it wasn't on. And this is not to toot my own horn. What am I doing? I'm all caught up. I'm trying to move around. It's hot. This is not to toot my own horn or anything like that, because I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to be that guy, right? I don't want to be that guy that's like, I'm the greatest. But they were saying, it's like, hey man, you've had some really cool guests on. Some really cool guests that we admire, you know, Moose and Jesse and Germ and Alan and, you know, whatever. You've had all these guys on, and then you have us on? Like, we're nobodies. And they also said that, like, we listen to your podcast and we can see how much you care and how much you're growing as a person at that. And that filled my heart so much. So much. Like, I love doing the podcast. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But, like, you know, when things don't hit like you would think they would, you know, and I don't really look at the listens, you know, the analytics of it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But, like, when you get 4 listens on a podcast, you're like, cracker, that one didn't hit. You know what I mean? But the fact that these people are like, man, you're doing some cool stuff, and we love it. And I don't know, I mean, I kind of know these people, you know, off of the Instagrams and stuff like that. But, like, I don't know them from Adam. You know what I mean? So, like, that to me was, like, a big deal. And it hit me right in my heart. You know what I mean? And I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed in my life and in the ability to give you guys this content. And to know that people are actually listening and following along and following the journey, dude, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? That's a big deal. I'm just some dude in a shed, talking on a microphone, trying not to go over his limit. Because they only let me record for 60 minutes at a time. I don't know why, but they do. You know, I'm trying not to go over my limit. That's all I'm trying to do. And try not to ramble too much to where it's not incoherent. But I just wanted to thank all of you guys for listening, liking, subscribing, doing all that. Please, if you guys take a minute and share this podcast with somebody who could be whiskey interested. But this isn't just about the whiskey. This is about life. This is about helping each other, right? Like I hope that Creeper do with his RV. That's what this is about. You know, it makes me very happy to know that people want to hear from me. And I've made friends through this, and I know we're barely getting started. Can't wait to see what it's like next year or 2 years from now, you know? So, again, I say all that to say we are doing some amazing stuff here. We're doing some amazing stuff, and it's only going to get better because guess what's coming up? Next month is the Andalusia anniversary party. It's a banger. And then October, Bastards Ball, banger. November, what happens? Daddy goes to Psalm 3. What? Yeah. Psalm 3, bro. And then we get into Christmas time. We do all the Christmassy things. Dude, we're going to have a good fall. We're going to have a real good fall and have some good stories to tell. Because I think that's a lot of it. The storytelling is a lot about whiskey. You grab a bottle, tell stories, learn from people. You know what I mean? Even if they feel like they don't have a story, right? Like when I was talking to Justin Whaley, he's like, I don't really have much to say. And I'm like, dude, you're a fledgling distiller? That's a big deal too. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of people that can do that. And people that are interested in whiskey, they're interested in all of it. And the fact that he's coming up in the game, that's a big deal to me. Hopefully it was to you too. It was fun. It was fun talking to him, and I hope to be able to do another podcast with him in the future and see how he's evolving and how he's growing. It's awesome. It's awesome. So I don't know. I just feel really grateful. Grateful for everything. And I turned the mic way up. Turned the mids way up. So hopefully you can actually freaking hear this. Because I listened to, episode 20? Couldn't hardly hear it, man. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I gotta get a better mixer, better microphone or some shit. But anyway, we're working with what we got right now. And once I get some more money, we'll put some good stuff in here. All right, bud. I'm gonna go because it's hot in the shed. I turned the AC off, and I'm about to lose my voice. I guess. Whatever. I don't freaking know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this about some of the misnomers on the labels. Keep it straight. You know what I mean? Keep it straightforward. And for those people who are putting that crap on their labels that's misleading, please stop. Please stop. That's dumb. Nobody cares. Is your whiskey good? Where's it made? Did you make it? I don't care if you didn't. Just tell me. Got it? All right, guys. Until next time, hit me up on all the socials. You know what to do by now. If you don't, listen to another episode. It's on there. I put on the Justin Whaley episode, I put a poll on there. So go back to that one and do the poll. It's going to be for 2 weeks about a potential guest coming on. So it's kind of fun, funny and fun. So I'd like to see y'all's results for that. Please share, like, subscribe, because that's how we grow. And keep all those things going. And look me up on YouTube. I'm finna do a YouTube video like right now. I'm gonna talk about some barrels. All right. Until next time, keep your spirits up. Peace out.